Hi class. In this video here, what I want to do is I want to walk you through using Microsoft Excel to do a lot of the visual representations that we did lecture 2, the video you watched about histograms and frequency. And then I also want to show you how to do some of the calculations like the measures of central tendency and measures of dispersion. We're going to get a chance over the next couple weeks, or almost every week, to work in Excel to help us make our calculations or do a lot of the arithmetic calculations for us very quickly and very easily. It's also learning Excel. Excel is also a powerful tool to know in the real world when you get into the workplace. I didn't always used to be a teacher, and in my professional career prior to becoming an educator, I used Excel almost daily. All right, so hopefully you have some familiarity with Excel. And if you don't, what you should do is you should download this data set in the classroom and kind of just fool around with like learning how to input stuff into cells and just seeing like, how you save a file, things like that, because I'm not going to go over that explicitly in our class. All right, when you load up this data file here, you're going to notice under column A here, I have what's called the class ages in months. So there's 30 students registered in this class. So if you start in row 2 and scroll down, I have all the way to row 31, since there's nothing in the first one. I have 30 different data values here of people's ages by months. So like this is 500 months. So if you were to think about it, the oldest person in the class, take 500, divide it by 12 months, that person would be 41 and basically 2/3 years old is what we're saying. And I don't know if that's true or not. I just randomly picked numbers. All right, and here's what I want to do with this data set. I have it put in order um, from ascending order here for the ages. And what I want to do is exactly what we learned in video 2. I want to do a visual representation of this. And then in lecture 3, we talked about the measures of central tendency and dispersion. So I want to find those for the data set. All right, so let's do the histogram here first. You look up here across the top, there's all these different options to choose from. But what I want to do is I want to click on Insert. And then up at the top here, you see all these things that look like graphs, right? So you want to click here. And what you're going to see is going to say you have no data sets you've selected. So what you have to actually first do here is you have to go over and select the data. Now there's a couple ways you can do that. The easiest one is if you have your data just in one straight row, you can just highlight all of A here like that. Another thing you could do is you could select the first data value, scroll down, and holding the shift key, you could select the last data value. We'll do this one a lot later on with the holding the shift. Later on in the class, we have smaller data sets or multiple data sets. But here, because of this one, we have a single data set. I'm just going to select all of A. There's all these charts here, and they have these recommended charts, but what we want to do is we know that age is a continuous data value. So we need to make a histogram, and this defaults to a bar chart, which is what we don't want. We want a histogram. So this little tab right here in Excel, if you click that, you see all the charts. You have these recommended charts. We want none of them. We're going to go over to all charts. You're going to scroll down and you're going to see right here a histogram. So you're going to click on that. This is what it's going to look like here. You can scroll over to preview it, and you're just going to hit OK. Now you can move the chart over. I'm just going to move it right here. And you can see that it's a little choppy. Like maybe it would benefit by more groupings. Well, if you select the horizontal axis here and then right click, you see all these different options here. What I want to do is I want to format the axis. This tells you that it's set. You can see here that they did a bin width of 80 and they had the number of bins as 4. Let me change that. I'm going to change it to 5 and see what happens. Automatically updates. You can even do more if I want 6 bins like this. Or you can just set the bin width yourself. I'll set it at 50. And this is what I see right here. Just by looking at it, this histogram tells us a lot about the shape of the data set. And it looks like the data set is heavily right skewed. It would seem that the vast majority of the class is on the younger side, which is what you would think at a traditional college setting. And then it shoots off, and there's people who are a little bit older, maybe coming back to college for the first time, or maybe even just taking the class for fun. All right, so that's easy with the histogram. So as a recap quickly, it's insert this right here. Oh, sorry, remember to select your data. All charts, and then histogram. I encourage you on your own to kind of fool around with the rest of these if you want to see, like maybe even a pie chart, anything like that, what you might want to see what it looks like, just to see what different charts produce. But we're mostly going to, in this class, concentrate on histograms. All right, typing in Excel commands, a little bit more difficult, so be sure to pay attention. I want to find the median of this data set. You have to start with an equal sign. So this mean is equal to what? Well, we want to find the average. So you're going to put equals average. Then you're going to have to put a parentheses here. And it's going to ask you to input the data. So you can, again, just highlight the entire row because we have that. Or you can select a value, scroll down and hit Shift to close it like that. I think the easiest thing is just to select this, close the parentheses, and it looks like the average age in this class from this data set is 289 months. Well, 289 months divided by 12 looks like the average age is just a little over 24 years old in this class. The median, well, that's the middle of a data set. So equals, and then you just type in median, parentheses, select all the row like this, close the parentheses. So the median of this data set is 272.5 months. All right, so now we've got measures of central tendency for this data set. What you're going to want to know next then is some measure of dispersion. So if you remember from the lecture slides you watched, there are two different types of standard deviations. There's a sample standard deviation and a population standard deviation. All right, how you do that? Well, there is a really hard way to do it by hand that you watched in the videos, but the great thing about Excel is it'll do it for you. So the command is this: you hit equals, and then you're not going to write out like standard deviation. Excel abbreviates it, so you press start STD like this, and then you'll notice that there's a bunch of different options it gives you. There's STDEV.P, all right, and if you look here in Excel, it's really nice. It tells you what it is. So it calculates standard deviation based on the entire population. We want the next one. So if you do EV.S, this estimates the standard deviation based on a sample. So parentheses, let's select the entire row, close the parentheses like that. That's the standard deviation if this was a sample set of data. Now imagine that this is the entire class. Well, that's the complete set of data. That's from a population. So to find the population standard deviation, it's equal STDEV.P for population. You're going to parentheses like this. You're going to select the entire column. You're going to close the parentheses. You notice that the standard deviation for population is a little bit smaller. If you remember from the formulas I gave you, standard deviation of a sample you divide by n-1. Here for population you're dividing by n, so obviously it has to be a smaller number. But I encourage you to keep playing around with this Excel and rewatching the video and learning how to do this, as we'll be using Excel a bunch in this class.